Okay, so last week you guys had a good class, walked through some Bible prophecy. Anything strike you going through those? Anything that was eye-opening in Bible prophecy as far as it pertains to apologetics?
Best class we've had in a week.
I knew I'd hear it. I knew I would hear it. Even Scott was the highlight of the class. Man, I told him I've got a better picture for him tonight, but no, I'll keep him on his toes though. Anyway, well, yeah, good. Well, Bible prophecy is another one of those areas that people can look at. The odds of all of those things coming together and taking place are like none, hardly, and yet Jesus fulfilled many of them. And I know Bill talked a lot about the Old Testament prophecies and all of that. So very good class. We've got about 2 more weeks to cover some apologetics material, and we may kind of break away from some of the historical discussions about apologetics and kind of move into another area. Okay, there's a lot with AP. But once the evidence for the Bible and Christianity has been laid out, via manuscripts, and you look at archaeology and all of that, which we barely scratched the surface of some of the archaeology, that we could get even further into that. And kind of once you talk about, all the corroborating sources that we looked at outside of the Bible that kind of proves the Bible's legitimacy, the skeptic may concede, right? It may concede and then, though, bring up other arguments that kind of move away from the historical and move into more of the philosophical arguments, okay? Which sometimes can be a bit more difficult to discuss and explain to someone. These would be the areas such as the existence of God, okay? It gets into logic, it gets into reason, it gets into rationale. You get into all of the moral arguments and the moral debates, right? And the suffering argument and talk all about that. And this is an area where I think a lot of Christians really don't feel comfortable because it's an area that we might really shy away from sometimes. Some of this stuff is very difficult to talk about. Okay, so we definitely want to talk about those things, but it might be. The reason why it might be hard is because in the past, things like this, the existence of God and all that, it didn't have to be defended as much. I mean, we really didn't have to defend it as much. I'm sure even some of you, even when you were younger and maybe even a child, or you remember back then, I mean, did you have to battle the existence of God and try to talk to people about that as much, or the reliability of the Bible? No. I mean, so things have, they've changed quite a lot. But it wasn't too long ago where most people, they believed in God, and people believed in the Bible, and people didn't question so much about, what was moral and the morality argument and all of that. But as we know, that's certainly not the case today. It's certainly not. Kind of an interesting thing. Anybody familiar with Pew Research Center? Okay, so the Pew Research Center, which is a pretty highly regarded research group in the U.S., and they do a lot of religious studies, okay, in Christianity studies and all kinds of stuff. But they've got a religious landscape study, okay, and that they had conducted more recently in 2023 and 24, and it says actually that they surveyed about 35,000 Americans in all 50 states. About their religious affiliations and their beliefs and their practices, along with some of their social views and their political views and demographic characteristics and all of that. And 35,000 people is quite a lot, big group to be surveyed. But anyway, it showed that 62% of U.S. adults. We're talking adults in this study. 62% of the U.S. adults identify as Christians. Only 62. Now, they've done this same study in 2007, and they did it in 2014, and it went from 78%, the people that identify as Christians, adults, now it's at 62% in 2023 and 24. Significant drop-off, okay? Every year we've kind of dropped off. But anyway, so 62%, and that includes everything from like Jehovah's Witness to mainline Protestants and evangelical Protestant groups. Okay, you had 7% that were affiliated with other religions. Okay, and these would kind of be more your bigger world religions, like your Buddhists and your Hindus and the Muslims and Islam and all of that. Okay, so that would be the other religions, 7%. Okay, and Jews are thrown in there, Jewish religion. Okay, and then 29% actually were in the religious unaffiliated. Okay, in that category. And so that would be your atheists, and that would be your agnostics, and then the nones category, right? People who just really just don't care. And they're just like, I'm not anything, whatever. But they still cast a vote, kind of. So they still got surveyed. But they're in the nothing in particular category, all right? But of all those, that's 29%. What's interesting, though, is that only 5% of that unaffiliated group are atheists. Okay? And what the studies are showing now, actually, is that rather than turning to atheism, the trends are starting to show that actually there are more people who actually are keeping their belief in God, and they're holding on to some form of spirituality, but what's going on now is they are breaking away and leaving organized religion. This is kind of getting into a new area for a lot of people, I guess. But so they're trying to move away from all of that, right? These are the people who, they claim that they want Jesus and they want a relationship with Jesus, but they don't want a relationship with the church. They don't want a relationship with organized religion. Okay, that would be kind of that group. All right. Now, you definitely still have atheism. Okay, and people that try and hold the evolution and all of that, and it's still absolutely worth talking about. But if you've noticed, and I'm getting to a point, okay, but if you've noticed, in the culture with the past 10 years or so, there has been, I've noticed at least, there has been like this weird kind of almost Jesus-like movement going on to where people, they're not really concerned about the truth, and they're not really concerned about doctrine so much, but they're still holding on to some form of spirituality. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've noticed that a lot, especially when I was doing the college ministry stuff. Okay, and that was like, 3 years ago. All right, but it's kind of difficult to explain, but I've definitely noticed the stats that they're showing. And for all of that does really demand an entire different approach with people to try and help straighten out all of that. But regardless, okay, that was just kind of free, but regardless, 5% of American adults in this country still say that they're atheists. Okay? Which is about, to put it into perspective, which is about 13 million people. Okay? 17 million people if you include the entire population of that percentage. Okay? Not just the adults. So that's still a giant problem. Right? Still a very big problem, considering that's about 15 million people out of the 350 million people that we have in the entire country. About 15 million of them still say, I don't believe in God. God does not exist. 15 million. Even so, 5%, that's still a lot, right? So that's a lot of people that still don't believe in God. That's a lot of people that have bought into the theory of evolution. That's a lot of people who are naturalists that only look at what is physical and only as far as a scientific method can take them. That's a lot of people who have bought into humanism, right? And they kind of put mankind at the pinnacle instead of God, okay, that's a lot of people. 5% is still a lot. And I don't think atheism is going anywhere anytime soon. It's not just going to die off anytime soon. So the areas of apologetics that deal with morality and existence of God and those sorts of things are still very relevant to talk about. That's what I'm trying to say. It's still very relevant to talk about. Even though you've got, kind of this new movement going on that, yeah, we still believe in God and we just want to be more spiritual. Anyway, that's an interesting thing. But atheism is still there. It's still here, okay? So it's still very, very much worth discussing. And we'll kind of get into some of those areas and topics in these last few lessons, okay? Any thoughts or comments? Yeah.
I'm curious if those statistics include whether or not they believe in Jesus, they believe in God, but they don't believe in Jesus.
I don't know.
That's what I could run into.
I think it's just, like you said, it's non-specific. So I think it's just some form of Christianity. Whether they hold Jesus to be, like you said, that's from Jehovah's Witness to, Mormons and the whole everyone. And so not every group believes the same thing about Jesus, right? So, but that includes all of them. Yeah.
I think a lot of young people today are very discouraged with what's going on in the world. They don't know who to believe.
Yeah.
Adult, I'm not sure I do either. Used to, if we read something in the paper or something like that, we might want to verify it, but we could pretty well say that's the way it is.
Yeah.
But they have found so many people, so many things that were later proved to be wrong. And I think their young people are looking for truth.
Well, that's very true.
Wherever they find it.
Yeah.
They're looking for it now. If they find the truth of God, that's what we want them to do.
Yeah.
I think they're tired of people. And I was looking right here, I'd seen this earlier. But, and I saw another thing where this happened. I can't remember who it was. But I think it was last week, the Cleveland Browns, several of members of that football team were baptized publicly.
Was it Cleveland?
Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
And it was called
I know up at Ohio State there was a
Cleveland
thing too.
Baptized.
Yeah. Even in Ohio State in Columbus, I know of the college minister there who baptized like 40 guys on the team or something. Anyway, yeah. But
I think they feel threatened by the things that are going on.
yeah, and social media does not help in this area because there's so many fake things and people are trying to sift through all of that. There's definitely a movement though from the younger generation. What is it like? Some of my generation, millennials, and then Gen Z. They are searching for stuff, and there's even now a newer trend kind of going on. Like, okay, we understand that these big mega churches and stuff. Okay, got the band and the light show and all that stuff, right? You've maybe seen that, but there's now people are even realizing that that's probably not right, and they're running from that. And now they're moving to the whole pendulum swing, and they're going to the most orthodox that they can find. That's the thing now. And now a lot of people are getting into like Greek Orthodox churches, and they're trying to attend that, trying to run away from all of the pomp and all of that, and they're trying to get into something that's very original. And I'm like, let's get in that. Like, let's find that. That's what we're trying to be, So a lot of interesting stuff going on right now in the culture. Anyway, but yeah, good thought. Any other thoughts to add to that? Yeah.
Progression of things, and we've seen it from, many of us go back to the 1950s and 60s and see where we came from and what we had, as you referred to a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
An assurance of what we understood, denominationalism or whatever. Denominationalism basically died with the big box of the community church movement. But as you said, the community church movement has run its primary course, and we've seen people are moving to something they can hold on to. But
Yeah.
many are still in the wandering state.
Very much.
Exactly saying that. You follow the progressions and you see the pendulum swinging. We may not live
Right.
make it move, but you can see, and I think you're right, we're seeing a movement that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of open to finding something.
Yeah, definitely open. I think that's a good way to put it. They're very open to something else.
Or some of them just, it's, they're ignorant to everything, and it's just easier not to believe,
Right.
anything.
Right. Well, that's why you had 29% in the unaffiliated and really didn't.
Well,
Anyway.
there is additionally to all of that,
Mm-hmm.
we had the rise of new atheism at the beginning of the 21st century, right? But the younger generations have really soured on atheism because of what they've seen on social media. So again, like social media is that double-edged sword,
Right.
right? It's effectively killed new atheism.
Yeah.
And is grooming Gen Z to be the most conservative, most religiously minded or interested
Yeah.
generation
Yeah.
for 100 years.
Yeah.
So there is that, right? That atheism is in a weak spot right now.
Mhm.
We have an opportunity to take advantage of it
Absolutely.
if we're willing to talk about it.
Absolutely. No, very much. Yeah.
I've been encouraged by a lot of, since graduation, Mason's had a lot of friends from high school that have reached out to him because they haven't necessarily studied on their own. They've been listening to things or hearing things, and but now that they're kind of out on their own,
Mm-hmm.
they realize they're missing something. This is what some of them have told him.
Yeah.
And they want to know what's right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's it right there. There's a lot of them that are just wanting to know what is the actual truth here. Yeah. Yeah. It's a generation that asks a lot of questions, which is good. Right. Yeah.
It just reminds me of the Judges cycle.
Yeah.
This pendulum
Yeah.
swing
Yeah.
of,
Very up and down.
from what's true and real, and then what does that bring? It doesn't bring good. So
Mm-hmm.
let's cry back to God.
Yeah.
And restore that
Yeah.
solidity and that foundation.
Absolutely.
I think it's just a reflection of this is just typical of humans.
Mm-hmm.
We swing all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in that mode of swinging back, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. But that's why we want to try to have a good social media presence. I mean, we're trying to fit into that gap there. We're trying to fit into the place where these people are asking questions and they want to know something. And so anyway, all right, good thoughts. But let's talk about some of the things that have to do with this first. Not that. Anyway, the existence of God. The existence of God. I will say if you're interested in checking out a good debate over the existence of God, there's a more recent one with, I don't know if you know who he is. His name's Kyle Butt. He's with Apologetics Press, okay, who I guess we could say is like the Brotherhood's leading debater at the moment. I haven't really seen many other guys out there debating, especially atheists. But anyway, he is with Apologetics Press. But there is one that he did in October of, I think, October 2024. And he debated a man named Michael Shermer, who is a leading atheist in the world today. But their 2-hour-long debate centered around the proposition, the God of the Bible exists. Okay? So, and Kyle, obviously, was affirming God's existence. Shermer was not. But anyway, we'll kind of talk about some of those same points that they were talking about because they are solid arguments that prove the existence of God. And again, without using the Bible, right? And that's another key thing with apologetics. How can you talk about all this stuff without using the document that a lot of these people don't even believe in? All right. So anyway, check that out on YouTube. It's probably on their website. World Video Bible School probably has it too. Anyway, very good. If you've got 2 hours to listen, I enjoy listening to those things. Okay, it is relatively easy to talk to another Christian. It's relatively easy to talk to someone else who believes in the existence of God. It's easy to talk to them. It's easy to look at Scripture and what Scripture says with them, and it's easy to talk about the existence of God with another fellow, let's just say, believer. Okay, and generally, other people that you talk to that also believe in God are going to agree with you that the Bible is inspired, and the words that are in it did come from God. It's pretty easy in the grand scheme of things to talk to a person like that whom you have some common ground with. But what if you find yourself talking to someone who doesn't believe in the existence of God? Right? What if you're talking to someone who is skeptical? Right? Or maybe hasn't been raised with a belief in God, or they've been raised with a belief that there is no God. Right? You were raised in your household probably with, God is God and this is who we follow. Well, some people are raised that, no, little Johnny, there is no God. Same. Okay? But how do you talk to that person? How are you going to approach that conversation and talk about that with someone who doesn't believe in God, or they don't believe in the Bible? It's very, very much something, huh? Yes, we could talk about history and like Bible prophecy, like we did last week. Okay. Okay. You could do that. You could go there. Okay. But that's a little bit different. Those conversations are a little bit different. Okay. And if we still want to try and help them see the truth, as we should, that's going to demand a different approach. Having that conversation is going to demand a different approach with somebody. Okay. You're going to have to kind of meet that person where they are and try to talk to them on their level and where they're at. Okay. But for an atheist or someone who is skeptical about God and about the Bible, you're going to have to take a different angle, because they're not going to believe the things that you bring out from Scripture. You've got to take a different angle. All right? Now you could say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I believe in God. So I'm sorry you don't, but I'm going to move on about my life. I believe in God. Sorry, see ya. Okay, you could say that. That's an option. You could react to a person like that and say, how in the world could you not believe in the God of the Bible? Are you stupid? I mean, how could you not believe in that? People say it. You could say that. You could go that route.
There's a time and a place.
Yeah. I get it. Okay. You could say, you could say, hey, I can't help you with your heart. Sorry. Or you could say kind of what God says in Isaiah 1:18. Come now and let us reason together. Let's reason together. Okay? Let's talk. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a healthy debate, maybe. Okay? Let's talk about this in a different way. Many ways you could approach those conversations. If we want to keep an open door with people and have a shot at getting the truth into their heart, number 2 is probably not the way to go in calling them dumb. Okay? Just be mindful of those things. Anyway, but what I want to do is kind of put forth some points or some truths that we could argue that would help us prove the existence of God from a logical viewpoint. Okay? Because they are from a point of view that might help someone who is skeptical. It might help them look at the Bible or look at these arguments for the existence of God in a different way. You just help them think about some things. That's what we're trying to do. So
Is it good to find out, maybe ask them, why don't you believe?
you could do that. Yeah, absolutely. Figure out where they are. Yeah. That's good to do, especially when you're first meeting them and all that. But anyway, what can we talk about with a person like that to try and help them see it differently? So we're talking about some arguments for the existence of God. All right. Number 1, and we will not get through all of them tonight, but every effect has a cause. Every effect has a cause. One of the things we could bring up as we talk about that is this right here, one of these laws, the law of causality. Anyone ever heard of this? Some of you math, physics people in here, you probably heard of it. Anyway, the law of causality. Okay, the law of causality says that every material effect must have a cause that brought the effect into existence. Pretty straightforward, okay? Every effect has to have a cause, okay? The material effect, yes, Kenneth.
Where do people that do not believe there is a God or in God, where do they say that life started from?
We'll get to that. I've got it. We'll get to it. Yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah, maybe not tonight, but we will get to it. Anyway, so the material effect must have an adequate cause that existed before that effect. Does that make sense? Okay? Basically, there's something behind it that caused it. Okay? Now, atheists and naturalists would say that they don't exactly know what caused the universe. Okay? They would say that there was this big bang, right, that allegedly happened, that they would say explains how the universe somehow expanded early on. Okay? They would say that, something must have caused that to happen, but an atheist would never attribute the cause to God, and the naturalist operates on the assumption that whatever got everything going must have been a natural cause. Okay? Did you track that? All right, basically, sometimes atheists and naturalists, they'll say, well, we don't really know what actually started everything. Okay? They may say that... Huh?
We know it wasn't God. Whatever it wasn't God.
Yeah, but they're not gonna, because of the position that they have to hold to, they are not going to say that a supernatural or this God, as you Christians call him, did it. They're not going to say that. And the naturalist says, whatever got it going, it had to be through a natural cause. All right? So, but neither of those groups and their positions step over into the supernatural. Neither of them do. And that's why they keep coming up with ridiculous explanations to try and explain it away. All right? So, argument number one, if we look at the law of causality, just from a logical perspective, and from all of the evidence that we gather, and we know that every effect has a cause, then we would have to consider at least that there is a being, there is a maker, who is higher than the universe, who is outside of the universe, as the cause of the universe. Does that make sense?
Intelligent design.
Okay, and we'll talk about that too. You just got my notes up here, Jenny Lou, so, man. Now, I know we're talking about using arguments that are outside of the Bible, but I just want to point out that the Bible does say in Hebrews 3:4, for every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God. I mean, the Bible does say that. Somebody might not believe that, but it says it. All right. Anyway. Okay, so what else? What else could we argue that would help us prove the existence of God? We've got, like from a logical standpoint, okay, we've got the law of causality. It's pretty straightforward. And then we have this one. That design, Jenny Lou, demands an intelligent designer. Design demands an intelligent designer. Okay? Kyle, in his debate with Shermer, said in his closing remarks that complex functional information has to have an intelligent designer. In every single instance where we know the origin or complex functional information, we know that intelligence was the cause of that. You understand what he's saying? In every instance that we have information, we know that something was behind it. There was intelligence that made it go. That was the cause of it. Okay? So, if we take our universe, the earth that we live on, the things within the earth, the animals on the earth, and even down to the human body. Okay, those things are so finely tuned that by looking at them and studying them, that it appears to be specifically designed in the way that they are. Okay, that everything seems to just be designed for what it is. Does that make sense? If you just observe it. Okay? This is actually, though, called something. You like the Three Bears? Who's the girl? There you go. Yeah, the Goldilocks principle. The Goldilocks principle says that, okay, the earth appears to have been tailor-made for life to exist on it. This is also called another argument. It's called the teleological argument. Anyway, for anybody that cares. But that the earth appears to be designed for us and designed specifically for life to inhabit. Okay? Remember, just back up. We're trying to talk about arguments we can bring to someone who is skeptical about the existence of God. Don't forget that. This is the areas you get into. Okay? All right, so that's what that argument says. And when you have design like that, that's found all in the earth and humans and all of that and animals, when you have design like that, that is so specific and finely tuned, it demands that there is a designer behind it. Okay? Even atheist Michael Shermer, which again was the guy that Kyle was debating, said himself in his own book, Why Darwin Matters, the Case Against Intelligent Design, the design inference comes naturally. The reason people think that a designer created the world is because it looks designed. I don't. Okay, so even in even those in the atheistic community acknowledge this. Okay, that simply just looking at the things that have been created and the way that they work seems to point to the fact that they were made that way on purpose. Go figure.
I know it
Okay.
sounds simple, but I think even before we have the ability to produce cars, horses are a pretty simple animal. It's just like God gave us that for transportation before we had, it's just like that seems pretty simple to me.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff kind of just seems like it makes sense.
Any other place
Sure.
in this world except to be ridden.
Sure. Right. So, anyway, they all seem to point to the fact that they were made that way for a purpose. Again, if we did want to go to the Bible, we could look at Romans 1:20, which essentially says the same thing. Since the creation of the world, and you may see this again from somebody that preaches on Sunday, I don't know. Since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, both his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. Well, the Bible says that. It says what the Goldilocks principle says and argues. Okay? So when an atheist who doesn't believe in God looks at the things within the universe and the world and the earth or nature and says, you know what, it looks like it's been designed. It actually looks like it has been. What they are seeing is God's invisible attributes and seeing his eternal power and his divine nature. Okay? And those things can be, as Paul said, clearly seen. Clearly seen. Okay? So, atheists prove exactly what the Bible is saying about that yes, you can look around and see that there at least appears to be design behind it all, which might lean toward an actual designer. Just saying. Okay, more about the design. We could look at animals, for example. You guys ever read the Reason and Revelation magazine out here? Some of you do, probably. Sometimes they have animals in there, right? And they're just, having all this information about animals and kind of seeing design in those animals. But that's another argument, really, that you could look at, in that they even seem to have been designed to have certain characteristics about them that would allow them to flourish in the environment that they are in and they live in. Okay? In fact, when you look at an octopus, they can change the way that they look to match any environment that they are in as a means of protection. This might be one of my favorite animals. Every time I see it change colors, I am absolutely blown away. How does it do that? It's amazing. A human body. A human body regulates body temperature, right? In that it adjusts on its own for cold, and it adjusts for heat, which is known as thermoregulation. That the body is designed to keep itself regulated at a normal temperature. You're too cold, you start shivering. You're too hot, you start sweating. It just is what it is. I can't explain it, but it happens all the time. Okay? So there's that. There's your blood vessels that constrict and they dilate and all that. We could even look at the human brain, okay, which people are still studying. The human brain and the speed at which it processes information, or even how the human eye. Oh, I thought I had the eye one on here. There it was. I maybe had this backwards. Yeah, let's just go to that. But even the human eye can adjust for light or distance. Okay, so there's evidence all around us for intelligent design behind all these things and how they operate. So much so that engineers develop and design buildings even, right here, and different technology by mimicking what they are finding in nature in what is called biomimicry. Biomimicry, in which all that is a form of engineering with the intent to mimic nature, what you find in nature. Okay? And so what it is the scientific community saying that nature exhibits design. And we're going to mimic that by building things. Which, one of the things that we see this with, trees. The trunks of trees are wider at the bottom and they are narrower at the top, especially taller ones. But when they sway back and forth, the trunks allow the wind force to kind of be dissipated throughout the entirety of the tree. Okay, and so the difference in the, I sound way above what I am actually smart, I'm not. But anyway, the difference in the diameter, right, it helps eliminate the force of the wind throughout the trunk. So people are building skyscrapers now to mimic that. Okay? Sometimes they build those like a tree trunk, and they're designed to mimic the architecture of a tree and how it moves to allow it to be a little bit more flexible as they get taller and taller. There was the camera lens, again. The lens of a camera, it operates on the same principle as the human eye. It adjusts for light. It adjusts for distance and even has a wide angle view, right? You got your peripherals. The camera was modeled off of the human eye. The camera lens. All right, so there's a lot more examples, obviously, of biomimicry. That's just a few. But anyway, the design in nature is so good, really, and so specific that engineers are looking to what they see in nature for how to build things. They're just borrowing that. Okay? They're borrowing off of what God already made, honestly. Anyway, so with this idea that design demands a designer, you can know by looking at something, regardless of where it came from, that there was intelligence behind its instruction or construction. Okay? Which is what we do in our world all the time. I have a computer in my hand. It's called a phone. All right? I can look at this, everything about it, and look at all the functions that it has, and I can know that this did not just come together from nothing. It didn't just spontaneously get here. Okay? I know that because nothing has ever come from nothing. All right? But everything that I'm observing about this phone tells me that there had to be a designer behind it. Had to be. Okay? Someone had to put this together. Same way with computers and everything. Someone had to do the math, someone had to build it, and someone had to test it. And it is too much of an intelligent design for me to say that someone did not put it together. That's the point. Okay? And that designer would be Apple. Or Steve Jobs or whoever. But here's the thing. I don't have to go down to Apple headquarters to prove that and make sure. I don't have to go all the way down there. No, I can just look at it. I can look at it and know that somewhere there was ultimately a designer behind this design. Okay? Because it exhibits characteristics that says someone built this. Okay? So anyway, yeah, there is an argument with nature itself to show that there is much design that in no way could have come together through random chance or from nothing. The psalmist did say, Psalm 139:14, I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am made. Okay? Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. Anyway, just a couple arguments. Whetting your appetite a little bit with some of this stuff. Some of it's even over my head. But atheism still exists, and these are good and relevant topics. Thank you.